Hello students, welcome to Unacademy. In this video, we are going to discuss what CSAT strategy should be for a person or someone who is attempting this exam to ace this exam and with a non-engineer background. That means if you do not have considerable mathematical background and you have been out of touch with the maths problems that you solved while you were in classes, while you were in school, whether you can still ace CSAT or not. Okay, so starting with the first part, the thing that I want to highlight is first the biggest myth about CSAT. What is the biggest myth about CSAT? The thing is that people or the aspirants, they approach CSAT with a wrong mental model. And what is that wrong mental model? The mental model is based upon the fact that CSAT is largely an exam which tests your mathematical skills. And therefore, the mathematical skills or the mathematical background that is needed, since I do not have it in adequate depth, maybe I'm not going to make it. This is a wrong mental model because I have seen aspirants throughout. I have seen that sometimes people with adequate mathematical background, they also struggle, and somebody who has humanities background is able to ace the exam. Okay, so the difference that I want to highlight here is the changing mental model that you must adopt even with humanities background or even with background that is non-engineering. Okay, so first of all, this perception has to be countered. So what are the perception? That CSAT is an engineering exam. That means I will always be asked difficult quant questions and they will always be greater in number, and since I have to score 1/3 marks, I would be out of the race. Okay, this is something that is a perception and it is a wrong perception. Okay, we will see it in the strategies how this kind of a perception can be countered. Okay, I need to solve everything. I need to solve everything. The thing is that this is a qualifying marks. Okay, that means this is a qualifying paper and you need only 66.67. If I talk in the number of questions, you need net 27 questions correct so that you are able to ace this exam. Okay, so you do not need to solve everything. Every question that is thrown at you, every difficult question thrown at you is not a challenge for you to solve. You can actually leave those questions and move on to the easier ones. Okay, so this is a wrong perception that I need to solve everything. I need to be well versed with all the topics, with all their types, and I need to perform them very, very smoothly. Only then I can ace the CSAT paper. No, you can be selective about your preparation and still qualify CSAT. All right. Third, I need very high marks. Okay, I need very high marks. Okay, how much marks do you need to qualify? 66.67. Okay, net questions 27 questions. Okay, do I need very high marks? I do not need very high marks. In fact, if you're scoring very high marks and you are devoting considerable amount of time, significant amount of time that is being taken out of your useful GS preparation or your answer writing or your optional preparation, it is something that should not be done. The reason is that these high marks are not going to be counted towards your merit. And moreover, even in the cutoff, it is not going to be counted. Okay, so I also do not want you to score on a lower range. For example, you must not be left dwindling between 60 to 70 marks. This is not something that is appropriate. What we actually need, we need to score something between 80 to 90. This is not a high score. Okay, that means 80 to 90. If we score this much, if we are in this range, then we can stop speculating after prelims is done. Okay, that whether one or two questions will be wrong or right. If you're scoring within this range 60 to 70, you will be in constant fear. You will constantly speculate, and that will cost you heavily because 12 to 15 days till the time results come, you will always be in constant anxiety. All right, so the adequate marks for you to safely sail through and also for you to utilize your time, useful time after prelims, is this. Okay, if you can focus on attaining this much marks, that is done. Okay, you do not need 100 plus scores or 120 plus scores. This is not a CAT exam. This is not a JEE exam. All right. What is the reality? It is a qualifying paper, as we have seen. 33% is the target. Smart selection beats blind preparation. Blind preparation. What do we mean by blind preparation? It means you randomly choose some topics. You do not see the previous year questions. You do not see what kind of topics are there. You do not see from those topics what are the subtopics. Within those subtopics, what are the types. Within those types, what are the easier types of questions, what are the difficult types of questions. So this kind of an identification must be done so that you practice only the ones that you are confident about, rather than practicing each and everything or practicing randomly. Okay, so smart selection occurs only when you know your strengths and weaknesses. Okay, that is, what are your strengths? Can you commit to having those strengths and getting marks based on those strengths? Secondly, what are your weaknesses? Okay, or based on that weakness, do I have some kind of questions which I can still solve? For example, permutation combination is a pain point for a lot of students. But however, I will tell you that permutations and combinations, there are some types of questions in PNC itself that you can definitely solve. It is based on simple, straightforward logic. But what our mind will tell us, that if I do not prepare permutation and combination in entirety, in all its types, then I cannot attend this PNC question. So this smart selection is what I'm talking about. It should be based upon the analysis that is your personal analysis, that is your strengths and weaknesses. All right. Third, qualification matters more than perfection, right? So this is building upon the last point itself. That means that I must not have a perfectionist attitude. That means I should not be someone who is always focused on completing things entirely in great academic depth. Okay, until then I'm not satisfied, or I will not write the exam, or I will just skip those questions. Whenever I see PNC, I will skip it. Whenever I see probability, I will skip it. No, you will have to go for smart selection. All right, so this is the reality. Okay, so you do not need to become an engineer to qualify CSAT, and this has been proven time and again. I'm sure you would have come across various people who, despite having good mathematical background, having engineering background, they still fail in CSAT. All right, and you must have come across people who do not have that significant mathematical background or engineering background, and they still ace the paper. All right, so the distinction lies in accepting the reality, okay, and destroying the wrong perception. All right, so next, why non-engineers fear CSAT? Okay, so there are two things. Okay, when we talk about CSAT, one is, on the other hand, one, we have ego, and the other is fear. Okay, so ego or pride is for people who have mathematical backgrounds. Okay, they might, this is a counter strategy, counter back it uh, uh, it is something that is not very useful for them, because they get stuck to difficult questions. Okay, so they have the expertise, but they are not able to get the adequate marks because they are stuck in some question. Okay, that is basically a strategy problem. All right, when we talk about non-engineers, why do they fear CSAT? So the second thing is fear. Okay, one was ego, the second is fear. All right, and I will tell you, this fear is something that is based upon your common thoughts. Okay, common thoughts that you keep telling yourself. All right, you keep telling yourself, I was never good at maths. Okay, engineers, they always have an unfair advantage. Okay, they will always ace the paper. That is not the case. Okay, statistically it might be true, but you will find that a lot of engineers are not able to ace the paper. All right, one bad paper can end my attempt. Okay, this increases the kind of fear that you have before the exam. Okay, these are the kinds of fears that you must avoid. Okay, fear, just like friction, it is necessary, but only in adequate amounts. All right, fear does push you forward, but too much amount of fear stops you absolutely. All right, so adequate amount of fear, balanced amount of fear is something that we must have, but not something that would make us inactive. Okay, that would stop us from moving any further. All right, so the reality is, maths anxiety is a recognized psychological phenomenon. ठीक है, maths anxiety is a recognized psychological phenomenon. Okay, it is something that you can read also about, that maths anxiety, that I develop a certain kind of fear towards maths. The thing is, what happens is, for example, I start attempting a question, a difficult question. Okay, with in the background I have the fear of maths already. That means I will not be able to get to the solution of this problem. I will not be able to execute the method properly. I will commit some mistake in the calculation part. This fear always stays in the background. You try to solve a difficult question, unable to do so. Okay, somebody with an engineering background may also not be able to do so, but they do not have this fear. Okay, so now what you do, you stop the practice also, because this increases your mathematics anxiety. Okay, no practice, this means even easier questions you are unable to answer. Okay, so this means that it was fear in the first place, fear that was there in the background, the fear that was haunting you. Okay, and that has led to you from difficult questions to not being able to solve even the easier questions. If you had broken this chain, then this practice would have taken place, and slowly and steadily you would have developed that kind of a confidence that would have countered the fear of CSAT or the fear of mathematics, right? So maths anxiety is a real thing, we understand. However, there are ways to counter it. Okay, so this is a kind of fear that would be irrational at some point of time. Okay, and this definitely needs to be countered. Second, fear reduces performance more than lack of ability, right? So we have seen this. If there was a difficult question, engineering candidate could not solve it, non-engineering candidate also could not solve it, but there was fear of maths in the mind of the non-engineering student, and therefore they cease practice, and then easier questions are also not solvable. Okay, I've come across students with whom I have sat face to face, and I have made them solve the question. I've just asked them, what is the first step that you will write, the second step, third step, fourth step, and then they get to the answer. But when they do it on their own, this fear of maths returns. Okay, this means that they are able to solve. If I give them easier questions or moderate questions, they are able to solve it. This means the ability is there, but it is inactivated. Why? Because fear. Okay, solvable by breaking this chain and getting out of it, practicing it, building your concepts and practicing consistently, so that this fear of maths does not return. Okay, third, confidence comes from familiarity and practice, right? This is the only way. That means when you are familiar, when the problems feels familiar to you, always you will see that some types of questions which are alien, which do not, which creates a kind of a fear within you, you're unable to solve it. Okay, you come back home when you are relaxed, okay, your mind is calm, you're able to solve it. All right, so the thing is, it will come from familiarity. Familiarity means you get exposed to a number of previous year questions, you get exposed to a number of basic questions, moderate level questions, advanced level questions, and you also practice consistently. This confidence will then kill the fear of maths. All right, so your biggest opponent is often fear and not mathematics. All right, so this fear has to be reduced, right? So this is at the psychological level. All right, psychological level, because what happens eventually is that you understand everything in the class. Okay, everything is understood, but when you practice on your own, you hit a point when you're unable to solve it. You come back to this saying in your mind that this is because I have a non-engineering background, this is because I do not have mathematical background, that is the reason I'm unable to solve it. While that was not the reason, because you were in the class and you were able to solve it. But now you keep feeding it in your mind. that has to be stopped. All right. So next, reading comprehension. Now coming to the strategy. Okay, coming to the strategy part. All right. So first is reading comprehension. This is your biggest opportunity. All right. So we will talk about the quant section and as well as the logical reasoning section as well. But first, reading comprehension still and will be your biggest opportunity. Okay. Every year you will have, there might be some years in which the number of questions might be less from reading comprehension. However, on a scale, you could find that up to 22 to 27 questions will always be there from reading comprehension. RC contributes 22 to 27 questions every year. No formula, no calculations. No formula, no calculations. This means nothing to memorize, no methods to deploy, and no calculation mistakes. Okay. Reading comprehension is something that you can definitely ace. The reason being that year long you go on to read so many articles, right? Newspaper articles. If you are a sincere aspirant, you would have read close to, even if I say 3 articles or 4 articles per day, it amounts to around 1500 articles in a year. Okay, so this means that you are someone who has gone through so much of passage reading. Okay, and definitely because of this continuous practice, you would have also developed an ability to understand things quickly and connect with all the things in the passage wherever they are written. You're able to connect with them. You are able to understand the central idea. You are able to understand what are the assumptions. You're able to understand what is the tone of the author. All right, these things becomes understandable over a period of time. All right, so this is something that should be used as your strength, and therefore you must capitalize on this opportunity. So your marks could be something like this. That means 30%, 22%, and 46%. Okay, so this means this is when we are talking about reading comprehension, logical reasoning, and quantitative aptitude. So your marks can come in this way. Okay, this is just an example. This is just an example of how your marks can be. Okay, so that you are able to come in the range of 80 to 90 marks. All right, so where can your marks come from? So this could be one of the combination. You will have to discover a combination for your own set of strategy. All right, now your RC action plan. One, we have talked about daily reading, build comprehension, speed, and vocabulary. All right, try to understand what do the words actually mean, what the words mean, what do they not mean as well. Okay, when we talk about inference, assumption, these types of questions definitely demand that you are able to understand, comprehend the passage correctly. Okay, there is no doubt in your head about what the passage is trying to convey. Second, elimination technique. Rule out the wrong options. Don't just find the right ones. Oftentimes you will find why the reading comprehension becomes difficult is one could be that the subject matter is more philosophical in nature. It is much more abstract. All right, so what happens is that we are unable to connect with the subjective thought pattern. Okay, that could be one thing. The second most common thing is that the options are very similar to each other. It becomes difficult for us to determine which one is the right one, which one is the wrong one. Okay, so this kind of an ability of studying the options must also be inculcated from the previous year questions. Okay, that means you must be able to identify if there are 4 statements A, B, C, and D, then why, if A and B are similar, why are they similar? What is distinct between them? I feel that if you do this, even if you do this for the last 4 to 5 years of RC, all the reading comprehension, you will understand how UPSC in CSAT paper in the RC section, how do they frame these options and which option, whether it is an extreme option, whether it is an alien option, okay, whether it involves something else which is outside the passage. Okay, you will be able to understand these things. Okay, so you not only have to see which ones are the correct options, not just the correct ones, but also understand the wrong ones. The wrong ones will help you to eliminate and the correct one. Of course, this will help you to select. Okay, so this is definitely important. Third, accuracy before speed. Correct answers matter more than number of attempts. Your goal, as we have said in the biggest myths, that I need to solve everything, this is not correct. Okay, you do not need to solve 80 questions. Okay, you do not even need to, there is a mark that people say, okay, I must attempt 60 questions, only then I will clear CSAT. No, it is not one of the fruitful strategies. You just need to qualify this paper. Okay, and for that you must build accuracy. Speed is only going to help you attempt more number of questions, but what use is those more number of questions if they are wrong? It is only going to increase your negative marks. Okay, so your net score will be again lower, right? Somebody can attempt 60 questions and without accuracy they can still fail in CSAT. So please ensure accuracy. That means if you're devoting time, energy, and you have previously practiced at your home in the exam, please, pay due respect to all the efforts that you have taken, right? How do you do that? You do it by verification. Double check. Okay, double check whether the process that you have deployed, whether it is correct, whether there is a correct understanding of the demand of the question, whether I have utilized the correct method, whether there has been any kind of mistakes in the calculation part. All of these things must be there. Even in the reading comprehension, it must be there, right? So accuracy before speed, right? Now, moving on to this from RC, we move on to the next section. So when we talked about RC, I'm not saying that you will leave out entire quantitative aptitude entirely, you will leave out. This is not going to work out. Yes, some things can be left out. We have to be selective in the quantitative aptitude section. In the reading comprehension section, I believe that you would be able to solve majority of the questions. Okay, 80% questions you would be able to solve, and with a greater accuracy also. Okay, suppose say you have an accuracy of 80-85% and you are able to attempt 80% of the RC questions. All right, but in the quant section, in the quantitative aptitude section, you need to be very, very selective. Okay, there are some kind of topics, okay, some kind of topics that will yield you better results. These are very basic topics. These are easier. These are the kind of questions that will seem very easy to you. Okay, that is something that you do not have to extensively practice for as well. Okay, so this I have noted down some of these topics. Okay, we will cover those topics also. There are multiple such topics, and within the hard topics also you will find certain subtopics within them which are easier. Okay, so selective quant, you do not need to master the entire syllabus. No. Math syllabus entirely done? No, this is not something that we have to go for. Do not trade your time for the difficult topics or the difficult types and easier topics also. One, not for difficult topics. I'm unable to understand, I'm unable to do it even with a calm mind. How will I do it in a pressurized situation? How will I do it in exam like conditions? Okay, so difficult topics you do not need to do. Don't do it. Second, you have easier topics. Within that, you have some difficult subtopics. This also you can definitely avoid. Okay, you definitely avoid and try to identify it from the pattern of the question itself. All right, if you identify itself, then you are able to attempt not blindly but selectively. All right, so some chapters I've written down. It is not an exhaustive list. Yes, there can be more, but it is also based upon what you find easy and what you find difficult. All right, so percentages and ratio, yes, this is the foundation of most word problems, and therefore you should master these first. All right, you must have the basic understanding of percentages as well as ratios, right? So percentage, basically in economics, if you like and if you love economics, you will always try to use percentages. You will understand inflation, you will understand disinvestment, you will understand all of these in percentages. Try to utilize those opportunities to strengthen your percentages topic also. All right, basically I'm saying that utilize each and every opportunity to maximize these basic problems strengthening. All right, then profit loss and interest. Okay, simple interest, compound interest, these kind of questions which are mostly formula based. Okay, and they do not have complex or complicated manipulations required to come to the solution. All right, then you have time, speed and work, something that you would have been doing since your school times. Okay, and while traveling also you could calculate, okay, how much speed is required for you to reach from point A to point B. Okay, if it is a boat type of question, that there is an upstream, there is a downstream, then what kind of manipulations, formula manipulations can be done. All right, so this is something that is considered to be an easy topic. Yes, we should definitely do it. Averages and mixtures. Okay, averages definitely can be done. Okay, so mixtures also, it can also be done. All right, so these are some set of topics. Please demarcate what quant sections are you going to do based upon your abilities in maths. Okay, easier topics, avoid these topics. Difficult and within easier topics, difficult subtopics. So avoid trying to master the entire syllabus. It is a GS mindset, not a CSAT strategy, right? GS mindset meaning that in prelims, the first paper, we try to cover most of the things. Okay, we try to at least not only the low hanging fruits, but also the most of the entire sections. Okay, we try to cover each and everything so that we are gaining much more marks and we are able to safely clear the cutoff. All right, but here you just need the qualifying marks. So don't fight your battle where it is not necessary. All right, next, logical reasoning. All right, so first we had RC. RC is your strongest companion. All right, they are going to give you the maximum number of questions that you can solve very accurately. Then you have selective quant. We are just focusing on selective topics based upon your analysis, your comfort level, and based upon the difficulty level even in the easier subtopics. All right, logical reasoning, it is the hidden score booster. Okay, logical reasoning is something that does not require a lot of calculations or a lot of formula usage or a lot of methods that you have to use or remember, recall. All right, there are some high return topics that if you understand them logically, you are able to reason well. Then also with adequate amount of practice, you can definitely score well. All right, and this is a section that I feel that people with non-engineering backgrounds can also ace. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. Okay, so what are those? Blood relations, directions and distance, coding, decoding, right? Coding, decoding, you can definitely do it. Okay, directions and distances. If a person starts from here, then goes here, then goes here, then goes here, what is the distance between this point and this point? What is this about? It is about you drawing the lines and then finding out what is the distance between A and B. Use Pythagoras theorem. That means what is the right angle triangle? You find out, you'll find ABC. What is the relation between ABC if this angle is 90 degrees? All right, simple application of formulas. Syllogism, definitely you should do. Statement and conclusion, arrangements, right? So these are high return topics. Okay, again I say this is not an exhaustive list. It means that it is also going, the list is only going to increase based upon your abilities, based upon your comfort level. All right, but these are some things that you should definitely be able to do. All right, so why LR works for non-engineers? First, it is less formula dependent than quant. Of course, there is some here and there you will find that there is usage of formulas, but entirely it is not entirely formula based. All right, it is highly trainable with structured practice. Okay, you find a logical reasoning question, you pick up a topic. So for example, in blood relations, okay, you will find that they will continuously go on telling that this is person is related to another person in what manner. This is the wife of that person, okay, this is the brother of that person, and so on. Okay, so this means there is no formula. If you had structured practice of at least say 15 to 20 questions, you will get a hang of it. And when you get comfortable with those questions, you are definitely going to solve it in the exam also. Okay. Quick improvement with visible, which is visible within weeks. Okay, this is important. Why it is important? The reason being that confidence is something that we need to acquire at the earliest. You acquire confidence from RC, you acquire confidence from logical reasoning as well. It will give you immediate results. That means within weeks you will find that okay, I'm going to be fine with LR questions also. All right. Equal ground, no prior advantage is needed. Okay, it is something that does not distinguish between the engineers and the non-engineers. Both of them will find themselves at the equal ground. Okay, so it is not going to create much of a distinction. All right, so that is why I feel, and you do it yourself and tell me in the comments also, tell me whether it helps you. Okay, whether it helps to increase your scores. All right, so it is the most underutilized scoring area for non-engineering aspirants. Okay, but again, I would say that equating maths with logical reasoning and then feeling that logical reasoning is again an advantage to engineers and not an advantage to non-engineers, and therefore you have a fear, please try to eliminate that fear at the earliest. Okay, I will be giving you some suggestions for that also. The next thing is the art of selection. Okay, so when we talk about we have talked about the CSAT strategy also. Okay, so in that there is art of question selection. All right, so I've said that it is not about entirely about the sections. Okay, you cannot be overly dependent upon the sections. All right, but you must be at least in the zone for completing the easy questions and the moderate questions. Okay, so in round one, easy high confidence items. Okay, so easy questions where you have high confidence, it should be done. All right, in the round one, by round one I mean that questions from 1 to 80 are there. I complete from questions 1 to 80. I find all the easy questions as well as the questions in which I feel highly confident. I complete them all. Then I move again back to the starting of the paper. Okay, and then I find those kind of questions which are moderate but familiar questions. Moderate and familiar questions. Okay, that you have seen it somewhere. You have practiced a few problems based on that concept, but you're not entirely confident about it. That is going to be moderate. Okay. Then round three, take calculated risks on the remaining time. Take calculated risk on the remaining time. By this we mean that the difficult questions must be left for the last. This is difficult questions as well as your difficult topics. Okay, difficult topics. If you find that it is a difficult topic and you are not able to solve it, you can leave it for the last. If you feel that you are able to take a risk on it by methods of elimination as well, then you can definitely take a risk based upon how much have you done in round one and round two. Okay, so this is going to up until this point, round one and round two. This leads to at least 45 to 50 questions. 45 to 50 questions, right? What is your smart approach? The smart approach is first scan the paper before starting. Okay, if you can identify, so even if you can identify, suppose say 15 to 20 easy questions, you can spot them. It is going to save a lot of your time and it is going to increase your confidence of the paper. It is going to reduce your fear and anxiety. Okay, then cherry pick your strengths first, right? This is what we talked about. Easy, high confidence. If you have high confidence in those questions, build up that confidence in the paper as well. Okay, don't go for the difficult questions in the beginning of the paper itself. That will destroy your confidence. Okay, third, move on quickly if you are stuck. Maybe you misjudged a question as an easy question and you are stuck there. Don't think that I am stuck here and this is an easy question, I must solve it and only then I will move forward. If you're stuck, it means that easy question was misjudged. Okay, and therefore you must move forward and look at other easy questions. Maybe you will attempt it when you come back in the round 2. Okay, avoid these traps. Ego questions, pride over strategy. Okay, that means you did a considerable significant amount of practice for suppose say number series. Okay, you are able to determine all kinds of patterns, but there is a question in the exam that requires a special type of manipulation so that you can arrive at the next number in the sequence. Okay, now it should not become an issue of your ego that I will solve this question because I have worked so hard in this chapter, I have worked hard on the sequences. It is not something that you should do it in the exam. It is not a matter of pride that you should display, because all questions carry equal marks. Your main strategy is to get to the easier questions, get those marks, and maybe come back to this later, and that is for fun. Okay, that is, you just are doing it because you have already qualified it, right? You have already found those number of questions that is needed for you to qualify this exam. All right. Second, time traps. One question, 10 minutes. This is absolute blunder. Okay, I found some aspirants, what they will do is they will spend 5-7 minutes in the first round, then come back to it, spend 2-3 minutes more on that same problem only to get it wrong. Why are you doing this? It is not required. Okay, you can safely leave these questions, utilize this much amount of time in reading one more passage. Okay, utilize this in trying to solve the logical reasoning questions. Okay, this is not something that is required. This is a time trap and you should definitely avoid it. Then completionism is that attempting everything. Okay, please do not think and try to attempt more number of questions in the anticipation that more number of questions means more number of questions correct. It does not mean that. It is not equal. More number of questions can reduce your accuracy. Okay, it can increase your negative marks, so avoid that completely. All right. Okay, so the formula for us, for the non-engineers, what is the formula? Does not need equal effort across all topics, requires strategic allocation. Strategic allocation of what? Of your resources. What are your resources? Your resources are your energy, your time, and the kind of hard work that you have put in these topics. Okay? So this means you have to be strategic about allocating these resources. Okay, what is the outcome we want? We want to qualify CSAT. That means we want the outcome in marks, and the marks is 80 to 90. Okay, 80 to 90 is the kind of marks that gives you, what does it give you? It clears the CSAT qualification marks. Second, it also gives you a peace of mind after the prelims. Okay, you are not speculating. You can easily go on to continue with your answer writing part. You do your optional, you do the subjects that you have ignored for 2 or 3 months before the prelims, you do that. Okay, do not waste your time in speculation because of this, right? Then first pillar, reading comprehension, 22 to 27 questions. This is like a summary for us. Pillar 2 is logical reasoning. That means it is trainable, it is formula light, not much use of formulas, not much use of methods. Okay, you are logically able to derive and come to a conclusion. You are able to come to an answer within the paper. Okay, and it is deeply scoreable with practice. Then third is selective quant. Focus only on high frequency, which has high returns, repeatable topics. Okay, it should not be the case that I practice for a topic that is rarely asked, I practice extensively on it, and it does not come in the paper. My whole hard work is wasted. All right, so something that is very much repeatable. Okay, something that definitely for sure that year after year 2 or 3 questions are going to be asked from this topic, so I must prepare it. Okay, so 33% qualifying marks. I keep stressing on this. Please, do not go for an understanding that you have to attempt all the questions or you have to score the maximum marks. These three pillars you have to focus upon: RC, LR, and selective quant. Okay, and 80% of your score can come from two areas. Okay, 80%, suppose say we are talking about 50 questions. Okay, 50 questions, 80% score. That means we could say 80% of the questions, 40% marks. Okay, or 40 questions, sorry. Okay, so this is 50 questions and 80% questions, 40 questions, I would say, would be your RC, can be your RC plus LR. Okay, rest could be your selective quant, right? So this could be the pattern in which you attempt the paper, right? Selective quant, 10 more questions, 40 questions, RC plus LR. ठीक है? इतना, this is going to help you cross the qualification marks that is required for CSAT, definitely, right? Now, about the thing that we keep telling ourselves, all right? This is important at a psychological level. Definitely, it is important. You have what it takes. Okay, you do have what it takes, and you should not doubt it. Okay, do not doubt it. Stop saying to yourself that I am weak in maths. Stop saying that engineers will always beat me. CSAT is not for my background. Please try to avoid these statements that keep on repeating in our minds. Okay, don't repeat those things, because something, even if it is a lie, if it is repeated multiple times, we start believing in it. Okay, you have to be particularly be avoiding those kind of thoughts. All right, start saying to yourself, start inculcating these kind of positive responses whenever you feel such kind of thoughts dominate your mind. What should you say to yourself? I know what to attempt, I know what to skip, and I know how to qualify. I know how to qualify. Okay, so it is not about whether I know maths, whether I know logical reasoning, whether I know RC. It is about I know what to attempt, I know what to skip, and I know how to qualify this exam. So please replace these thoughts whenever these thoughts appear. You can try and even stick this in front of you. Only stick this part. Okay, whenever you have these thoughts, you go and read this at least 5 times. Slowly you will find that your thought patterns will change, and this will reduce the fear and increase your tendency to practice. Okay, it will also, we sometimes keep on postponing the practice. That will also drop. You will start practicing things consistently and build a huge confidence from it. Okay, so preparation matters more than background, and qualification matters much more than perfection. We cannot be perfectionists. We cannot aim at covering entire thing and in great academic depth. That is not the requirement of the exam. If you do so, you are going to lose a huge amount of time that could have been utilized in your mains answer writing, that could have been utilized in other preparation as well. Okay, so you do not need to become an engineer to clear CSAT. What you need is actually to engineer your mind, okay, to eliminate the fear. Okay, so with that note, I hope things are much more clearer now. If you have any doubts, please do drop a comment and we will get back to you. Thank you so much.